sort of the secret report. There's a big report and a little report.
I've got the big one.
Well, the little report, which I probably still have, tells you all the centres that should be disbanded, got rid of. Yeah.
So you spent a whole, almost a career in Grand Office until you were made a past Deputy Grand Master, and then you were invited to be the Deputy Grand Master.
Yes. What happened? Like, I did 5 years as Grand Superintendent of Works.
Mm-hmm.
I was on the Board of General Purposes. I think I completed 12 years there, and I got to the stage where I thought, look, that's really enough. And then Henry Nathan asked me a couple of times, was I interested in being considered for Deputy Grand Master, and I assured him not. I couldn't possibly have been Deputy Grand Master and done my job at work. It would not have been possible. But I retired in 1988, and
you retired from a very senior position too, didn't you? You retired from a quite senior position.
Yes. I was the Chief Engineer and Deputy General Manager. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and because I didn't have a General Manager, I probably spent I think about 6 months as General Manager. But and then we got a call one day from John Humphreys, who'd been in the team in 1970, good friend, and he said, "Oh, I want to come out and see you." He said, "Just checking it." I said to Nora, "Well, I know what this will be about. So you've got 20 minutes it'll take him to get here. So you have to decide whether we're going to say no again, and that'll be the end of that, or whether you accept whatever offer he comes." So that's how I became deputy. But of course, what happened then at the end of the deputy, the sort of Peter Green, Kent Henderson group decided that they also wanted to be Grand Master, and so that's how we got involved in the election.
So you faced 2 election campaigns.
Yes, the next year it was, I can't think of the chap's name, was the fellow from, partly that group, but somewhat different. And I don't know why he did that. The bad thing about it, or perhaps you'd say the sad thing, was that it wasn't long after that Peter Green died, and the other fellow who stood for election again, he also died relative to that. So it wasn't such a great idea. The election provided some valuable information, though, Richard. You know, I was able to get all the details, so I was able to tell which lodges and which areas gave me no votes at all, and one was a couple of lodges in South Gippsland. So I made some inquiry, and they said, well, you know, they're really crooked on Grand Lodge because, and it went back to something that had happened many years before. So memories are long in Freemasonry, as you probably know.
Oh, that's what I've discovered that, yes.
Yeah. But anyhow, I thought, well, the first thing I'll do, I'll have a country team from that area. They've been great supporters. Yeah.
So you know, with the benefit of hindsight, that election campaign did have some useful outcomes. Is that a right word?
Yes, because we got information that we didn't know really, and there's a lot of people, even from that time, who still communicate with me from time to time, and I suppose they feel they're keeping me up to date. If they think that I can do anything, they're sadly mistaken.
So looking back on your period as Grand Mastership, which was what, 1996?
95, 96.
95, 96?
Yes.
I mean, what sense of achievement personally did you gain out of that?
Right. I started with an exercise book. We didn't have a particular committee to do it, so one of my jobs at work had always been preparing forward plans, and so we always had a sort of a 5-year plan and a 50-year plan, and I thought the first thing I need to do is get a detailed plan. So I prepared it in my own exercise book, and I decided that the thing that was missing most or causing most angst was our image. Back in those years when perhaps the early post-war time and the early years when I was at Lodge, there'd be a big crowd there. Now, it's not great for Freemasonry, but it's the truth. What happened was they would buy 14 or 16 dozen large bottles of beer for the meeting, and there was always a group who were determined to stay there and until it was finished.
I have observed that myself.
Now, fortunately, you don't see that today. Well, certainly I don't. And I think that must have really caused a lot of angst with families. There were other instances. I can remember we were selecting the team. We went to stall, and different fellows were coming in, talking to them, and one came in with his wife, and I said to her, well, how do you feel about it? She said, well, to then she hadn't said a word. She said, I've no idea how I'm going to manage. She said, so-and-so's doing HSC or VCE, whatever it was called in those days, and she said, and the husband, he'll do what he wants. She said, and I don't know how the family's going to manage it all. She was clearly distressed by it all. So the image of Freemasonry was not, it wasn't great, and I felt that was the major area. I went to a little firm, Campbell's, and asked them for advice, and I gave a report their report to Jane because I no longer needed. And they came up with some suggestions. One of the critical things they said was, I talked about publicity. They said, why do you think people would be interested? And I thought, well, that's a good question, isn't it? I thought of this when Channel 31 was showing Freemasonry last year. I suggest probably the majority of the audience were probably Freemasons. There may well have been others, but so, and out of that, I drew up a plan that I would have a number of meetings with non-Freemasons who carried some weight in the community, and meetings with Freemasons. And so that's what I did for the 2 years. I think I had about 30-something meetings around the whole of the state, the metropolitan area, with Freemasons, inviting questions about things that were troubling them. I always went about it by asking them, first of all, to write down their question before we did anything, because my observation was that if you let one fellow ask a question, you're stuck with that for the night, because people build on it and around it. They don't go to new areas. And I feel that they were quite helpful. The non-Freemasons, we drew up quite a large list of people who we thought were suitable, who were, the principals of girls' school, of private schools, of other schools, people from the law, people from industry. And we invited them to a lunch. We used to have around about 15 or 20 visitors each lunch.
Clear the boardroom lunch concept.
Yeah, exactly. But But I always had a Freemason, a visitor, a Freemason. So every visitor was next to a Freemason. And my task then, and I always had a single table so that everybody was at the one table, and my task was to keep the discussion about Freemasonry the whole time. The most difficult lunch I had was when I had George Pell and the bloke who became the Chief Justice, whose name eludes me, but I knew he was Catholic, and he wanted to talk about religion with George Pell. Luckily then I knew that George Pell had played football for Richmond, so I had John Wilson, an ex-Richmond footballer and a very keen barracker, there to keep it in order. But they were very good, and you know, we particularly the women were more interested in Freemasonry, and whether that helped the image, I don't know. Unfortunately, at the end of my time, Walter Rowley, who was my deputy, said, "Oh, he said that's too hard for me." He said, "I don't think I can do that." So I said, "Walter, do the things you're good at." So that was the end of the lunches.
Mm-hmm.